Hello, and welcome to Tap That MTG, the show where we tell you everything we know about magic that's probably wrong, but fun to talk about. I'm Shauna,
I'm Leslie.
and today we are bringing you another Commander Precon deep dive that we love to do.
Hmm.
In this video, we're going to do like we usually do. We break down the deck according to a little formula that we will talk about, as well as just telling you what the deck is supposed to do and where things fit in that formula. And then, if you stick around long enough, we'll talk about some of the tweaks that we thought might be kind of fun to try out in this deck. So, in the meantime, Leslie, tell us what this deck does and what that commander is all about.
Well, this commander is a nice little doing what I like to do, which is flying. Spirit Commander deck tribal.
Oh,
We
that's why
have
you sang the
Millicent.
song.
What? Yeah, that's why I say going on up to the spirit in the
Oh my
sky.
gosh, sorry. I just got it now. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry I interrupted you.
Oh, anyways, Millicent, the Restless Revenant, she is so pretty, this one. She costs 5 and 2, so a white and a blue for a 4/4 flyer, but it costs less to cast for each
Ooh.
spirit you control. So it's a fairly
Mm.
expensive commander. Again, every time your commander dies, you're going to pay commander tax. So it looks like, oh my gosh, this is crazy to use as a commander. But because she costs one less to cast for every spirit on the battlefield that you control, really her cost is only 2, which is fantastic. Uh, Whenever she or another non-token spirit you control dies or deals combat damage to a player, you get to create a spirit creature token with flying. So you're going to just keep creating creatures and keep creating tokens and doing combat damage and hopefully overrun them really fast. This one is going to go
Wow.
wide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew.
So what about the guts of this deck, Shauna?
Well, the mana curve on this one is fairly low actually, because a lot of spirits don't cost much to get out there, and so we've got, you know, at 1 and 2 there's like 17 cards, so that's quite a few. And then at 3 there's 21, so you've got quite a few cards at less than 3 mana cost.
Mm-hmm.
14 at 4 and 5 at 5 and 6 at 6 plus. So it's very low mana curve, which is really going to make those spirits even cheaper to get out there.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, as far as the color breakdown goes, you've got 22 blue and 31 white, 8 colorless, which are your mana dorks and stuff, or mana rocks. I mean, not dorks, and 4 multicolor. So very much white and blue deck happening here. As far as the card types go, we've got our ramp, which is about. Oh, sorry, never mind. Sorry, never mind. Card types. We're talking card types. We're not talking formula.
So funny. I did the same thing
Uh,
the last video. Just go watch that one
gosh.
too. I just flubbed that all up. Anyway, card types.
We have 34 creatures, so lots and lots of creatures. Obviously, this is a creature tribal kind of deck. 13 sorceries and instances, 9 enchantments, and 8 artifacts, and then 1 planeswalker in this.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Leslie, can you tell us, so speaking of the commander deck formula, can
Yeah,
you tell us about what formula we use and what it's all about?
sure. So every commander deck has a fairly similar basic makeup. We found a formula a couple years ago that we like to use to analyze and kind of start with a base. And Wizards tends to build their decks fairly similar. So we're going to evaluate our this deck based on this formula. It is not the only formula, but it's a formula. Of course, you have your commander. You're going to have about 15 cards that are going to be your ramp cards and get you mana out that you can use. We're going to have 15 removal cards, 13 card draw or tutors, 12 high impact cards. These are going to win you the game. And then 10 other cards that are going to support or other win conditions. Basically, just things that make your deck do what it's supposed to do. So, yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, the
What's our
very
first section?
first section is the ramp mana generator section. So the formula calls for about 15, like Leslie just said. This deck has only about 9, but your commander's going to be cheaper to play, hopefully. So, you maybe don't need as much. Starting us off, we've got, of course, the Soul Ring, which is the pay 1 and tap it for 2 mana. And then the Sky Diamond and the Marble Diamond, which are mana rocks that tap for their corresponding colors. And then the Commander's Sphere, which has been included in pretty much all of the decks lately, which is awesome. It's the one that taps for any color in your Commander identity, and you can sacrifice it later and draw a card. So very handy.
3 more kind of mana rocks that are fairly basic in any Azorius deck anyway, is Azorius Signet, Azorius Locket, and Arcane Signet, which is in pretty much any commander deck. So the Azorius Signet taps for blue and a white, and the Azorius Locket, you can add one or the other. You can also sacrifice it to draw 2 cards if you pay for that. So that's a nice little added benefit there. And when we say Azorius, for those that are just joining us for Magic the first time, that is one of the guilds of Ravnica. It is just based on that, though that guild has those 2 colors, which is why we say it is an Azorius deck, because it has blue and white.
Then we've got this lovely little Knight of the White Orchid. It's a card that I wanted to have. I still don't have one, actually, so maybe I should get it.
It's for we're going to get this deck.
I was thinking about it. So yeah, it's a little human knight, 2/2, first strike. When it enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more lands, then you may search your library for a Plains card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. So it just really helps you get another Plains out.
And Boreas Charger is a Pegasi. Pegasus. For 2 and a white, it's a little 2/1. And when it leaves the battlefield, you get to choose an opponent who controls more lands than you and search your library for a number of planes equal to the difference. Reveal those cards, put one of them onto the battlefield, and tapped and the rest into your hand, and then shuffle. So potentially you can get a bunch of Plains cards that you can then ramp with. Nice little card.
Then we move on to the removal section, and we like to see lots of removal in decks because, let's face it, you got to get rid of their stuff. So the formula calls for about 15. This deck has about 13, so pretty on par. The first one is one of Leslie's favorite cards, Darksteel Mutation. It is a little aura that basically you enchant a creature, and that creature becomes an insect artifact creature with base power and toughness of 0/1 and has indestructible and loses all other abilities and types and creature types. Poor Leslie had someone do this to her commander, which was kind of not a very cool thing to do, because then you can't even.
I'm traumatized. I'm just traumatized for life. Every time I see this card, it brings back that negative memory, and it just makes me angry. Anyway, Imprisoned in the Moon is a similar card. For 2 and a blue, you can enchant a creature, land, or planeswalker. Enchanted permanent is colorless land, and it taps for colorless, loses all other abilities. So again, they have to remove that, or their really nice thing that they wanted, or even that land, that one land that they needed in order to play all their stuff, is now just a colorless land. So
yeah, it's just mean. These are mean cards. But of course, it's a blue and white deck, so what do you expect? Come on. So Arcane Denial for 1 and a blue. It's a little instant that counters target spell. Its controller may draw up to 2 cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. You draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep as well. So, yeah, it's a really cheap counterspell, basically.
And Swords to Plowshares is a typical card you'll see in most white commander decks. It just costs 1, and you can exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. But sometimes you just need to exile that creature.
I like that Wizards has put a lot of the commander staples in these past few years of their commander decks, because it's really brought the price down and made commander a lot more accessible for just anybody, instead of it being so expensive to have.
And their pre-cons, maybe we're biased because we always do these pre-con videos, or maybe we just know more because we always do the pre-con videos, but The precons are actually really good the last couple years, and you don't feel like you're buying a precon and it's going to automatically lose because it's
Yeah.
like planeswalker deck level. It
Yeah.
actually will hold its own at a table with other
Definitely.
6 or 7 built decks. So
Yeah, definitely. We've got Crush Contraband for 3 and a white. It is an instant that you can choose one or both. Exile target artifact and exile target enchantment. You're going to need this card. Just saying.
yep, definitely. Flood of Tears, return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. If you return 4 or more non-token permanents you control this way, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. So that's super nice. You can get your commander back out onto the battlefield.
Kurtar's Wrath for 4 and 2 white. It's a sorcery that says, destroy all creatures. They can't be regenerated. And then it has Threshold that says, if 7 or more cards are in your graveyard, instead destroy all creatures. Then you get to create 2/1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying. Creatures destroyed this way can't be regenerated. So there you go. You're going to get some spirits if you have enough dead stuff.
Now, all of these spirits you're creating are little 1/1s, but you'll see as we start explaining this deck that they are not going to be 1/1 creatures, just so you know that. It matters for this next card, Fell the Mighty for 4 and a white. It's a sorcery that you can destroy all creatures with power greater than target creature's power. So be careful, because if you've already got your buffers out, then your spirits are going to be bigger than you might want them to be. But to start off with, it's a board wipe that keeps your little 1/1 spirits on the battlefield while their stuff all dies. So
yeah, play that first and then play your buff after that.
Yeah.
Nebelgast Herald for 2 and a blue. It's a 2/1 flash flying. So flash is you get to play it at instant speed, so you can play it at any time. When it or another spirit enters the battlefield under your control, you get to tap target creature and opponent controls. So just for our new players, if you want to tap down their big beefy guy that you know they're going to attack with, you want to make sure you flash this in first before they declare it as an attacker, and then you get to tap it down. So that's how that works.
Which is why it's a good habit to get into saying moving to combat. It's sometimes it's hard even seasoned players don't necessarily say move to combat. So if you're playing with people and you're playing this deck, encourage them to say, are you moving to combat? Because you might want to do something while they're moving to combat.
Before they do that.
Yeah. If they don't, then you can say actually in response before you move to combat, and that should be totally fine. So
yeah.
Shacklegeist for 2, you get a 2/2 flyer. It can block only creatures with flying, but you get to tap 2 untapped spirits you control, tap target creature you don't control. So another way to get things tapped, and you will find out a little bit later why tapping is really important. There's a lot of cards that tap target creature in this deck, and it will become important.
It will. A Twilight Drover for 2 and a white. It's a little 1/1 spirit. Whenever a creature token leaves the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on Twilight Drover. So that's any creature token. So what if you're playing against my vampire deck? What are you going to do? You're going to put lots of 1/1 counters on Twilight Drover, because I'm getting rid of a lot of little token vampires.
Yeah.
You can also pay 2 and a white and remove one of those +1 counters from Twilight Drover and create 2 little spirit tokens for yourself.
Nice.
So it's going to help itself all along. Nice.
And Remorseful Cleric for 2. It's a little 2/1 flyer, and you can exile all cards from target player's graveyard. So if they have a little bit of graveyard recursion happening, you're going to want to target them.
Yep. Hanged Executioner for 2 and a white. It is a 1/1 flying spirit that when it enters the battlefield, you create another 1/1 flying spirit, and you can exile this by paying 3 and a white and exile a target creature. So it's a little removal on a stick, basically.
And our next section is all about card draw and tutors. Our formula says we should have 13, and guess what? This deck has 13 that we figured. So Reconnaissance Mission is the first one for 2 and 2 blue. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. This one also has the added benefit of cycles. So if you don't need it as an enchantment on the battlefield, or you just need to draw a card right away, you can discard it and draw a card.
Which I doubt you're going to do because, yeah, you're going to have lots of spirits doing damage, lots of cards.
Yeah, I'd rather put the enchantment
Yeah.
on the battlefield than
It's
cycle
whenever
it.
any of those
Yeah.
creatures. So you
The only
can have
reason
like
you
5
wouldn't do it,
cards.
I think why it has that is if, for example, because this has a lot of card draw in it, you might be getting down low on the
Oh,
number of cards in your thing, and you don't want to draw every single time you do
good
damage
point.
with a creature. Yeah.
Could cause you a problem because it is a May ability. Okay.
Right.
But
Okay.
still.
Still.
A Verity Circle for 2 and a white, or 2 and a white, 2 and a blue. That's an enchantment. Whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes tapped, if it isn't being declared as an attacker, you may draw a card. Oh, we're tapping stuff. Oh, haha. So you're going to draw cards when you do that, and you can pay 4 and a blue and tap a target creature that doesn't have flying. So get rid of that big beastie boy.
Yep. Midnight Clock. This is a really good card
Good
for
card.
2 and a blue. You can tap it to add mana, or you can pay 3 and put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. In fact, you can do both of those things, can't you? At the beginning of each upkeep, you put an hour counter on Midnight Clock, and when the 12th hour counter is put on Midnight Clock, you shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library, then draw 7 cards and exile this. So all those things that are either in your graveyard have been killed or that you needed to discard or whatever, now go back into your deck. Great card.
Yeah, I really like that card. A Distant Melody has some cute little fairies on there for Leslie. It's a 3 and a blue sorcery that says choose a creature type. Draw a card for each permanent you control of that type. Why not 10 spirits? Let's draw lots of cards.
Right? Spectral Sailor, another really great little spirit card. Flying, it has flash, so you can play it again at instant speed, and you can pay 4 to draw a card.
You can do that more than once if you need to.
Yeah.
I've done it. Sire of the Storm it's a 3/3 flyer. It's a spirit as well for 4 and 2 blue. Whenever you cast a spirit or arcane spell, you may draw a card. That could get you a lot of cards.
Yeah. So we did look this up, or arcane spell.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, it's a special type of instant or sorcery that it says instant dash arcane. So it was something that they used a while ago. So it's a special card type.
Right. So it's not just any instant or sorcery, because some people might think, well, an arcane spell, of course, in the world of fantasy, arcane is magic. So
right.
So yes, it has to say arcane in the type line.
The card type line.
Cami of the Crescent Moon for 2 is a 1/3, and at the beginning, this is a new card. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. So this is, like any good commander deck, a nice little political card that you can put on the battlefield and say, hey guys, everyone gets an extra card. So they might want to keep that on the battlefield for you.
Are they talking about the moon in the background or the moon on his little bear bum?
Blue moon.
He's just a little cute guy with a little bear bum.
Oh, he is.
I think it's bear.
He looks angry because he doesn't have any pants on, I think.
Oh my, someone must have stole them. Ghostly Pilfer. It was the Ghostly Pilfer stole his pants. Oh my gosh. For 1 and a blue, it's a 2/1 that whenever it becomes untapped, you may pay 2, and if you do, you get to draw a card. Whenever an opponent casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, you get to draw a card. You can discard a card, and Ghostly Pilfer can't be blocked this turn. So it's just a really useful little spirit rogue dude. He's going to do some work for you.
Mentor of the Meek for 2 and a white is a little 2/2, and whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. All those little spirits, almost everything that you're playing is going to have a power 2 or less. So Mentor of the Meek is going to do some work for you.
Yeah. Bygone Bishop. It's a 2/3 flyer for 2 and a white that says whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 3 or less, investigate. Investigate are little colorless clue artifacts that say sacrifice it and you get to draw a card. Or you have to pay 2 and sacrifice it.
Mm-hmm.
You get to draw a card.
Yeah. But you get a little clue for when you need it.
Yeah.
I like the clue tokens because they're a little bit more like it's not just when this happens you draw, it's when you need to draw because you don't have what you need in your hand, you can use it. So
yeah.
Dovin Grand Arbiter is our planeswalker in this deck. He only costs 3 for a 3/3 loyalty planeswalker. His +1 ability allows you till the end of turn whenever a creature you control is dealt combat or deals combat damage to a player, put a loyalty counter on him. So he's going to get big that way. You can also minus him to create a colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying and gain 1 life. You're not going to do that. I don't recommend doing that in this deck. You're going to try and get him to the -7, which is look at the top 10 cards of your library, put 3 of them into your hand and the rest at the bottom of your library in random order. So you are going to want to use him to kind of pilfer through your deck and get the cards that you need. So use his +1 ability until you get him to like 8. And then -7 him so you can keep him on the battlefield and keep going that way. So
for sure.
Yep.
Then there's the Occult Epiphany for X and a blue. It's an instant that says draw X cards, then discard X cards. Create a 1/1 spirit creature token with flying for each card type among cards discarded this way.
crazy.
That one you really have to think about when you do it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be discarding for sure, right? The same number of cards that you actually draw.
And it's for each card type. So you have to, if you want spirits, then you want to do different card types.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Disorder in the Court is an instant. Look at them arguing, these old men.
Love it.
For X and a white and a blue, it's an instant. You can exile X target creatures, then investigate X times, and return exiled cards to the battlefield tapped under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So you're going to exile your own creatures that have entered the battlefield effects, and then get a bunch of investigate or a bunch of clue tokens, and then they're going to come back and all the enter the battlefield stuff is going to happen again. So
nice. I like it. You could do some shenanigans with that. Then we're moving on to the high impact cards. So these cards are the ones that are going to win you the game. The formula says 12. The deck has about 19 because there's lots of really great stuff in here.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump right into it. Field of Souls for 2 and 2 white. It's an enchantment that says whenever a non-token creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you create a spirit creature token with flying.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! Nice.
This is going to help you with your board wipes too. So if your commander's out on the battlefield and someone does a board wipe, you get some spirits for each of those, which then makes your commander cheaper. So you're left with some flyers and nobody else is left with anything. So it kind of helps because people are going to want to board wipe you for sure. Drog Skull Captain for 3 is a little 2/2 flyer. Other spirit creatures you control get +1/+1 and have hexproof. What? Dead or alive, true leaders can inspire an entire army.
Custody Squire. It's for 4 and a white, a 3/3 flyer that has Will of the Council, which says when Custody Squire enters the battlefield, starting with you, each player votes for an artifact, creature, or enchantment card in your graveyard. Return each card with the most votes or tied for the most votes to your hand. More politics happening there.
Geist of Saint Traft is a 3 mana cost 2/2 with hexproof. And whenever Geist of Saint Traft attacks, you get to create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying that's tapped and attacking. And then that creature goes away at the end of the turn. So, he's a little 2/2 that is actually a 6/6 for 3.
Yeah. Rattle Chains. It's a 2/1 for 1 and a blue that has flash. Flying. When it enters the battlefield, target spirit gains hexproof until end of turn. You may cast spirit spells as though they had flash. So that takes advantage of all that whole spirit stuff you got going on for sure. Yeah.
Oi, okay. Oyobi,
Sure.
who split the heavens, is a legendary spirit flyer, 3/6, and whenever you cast a spirit or arcane spell, you get to create a 3/3 white spirit creature token with flying. So you're gonna,
Great.
again, every time you create a spirit, you get another spirit.
Crazy. Angel of Flight Alabaster. It's a 4/4 flying angel for 4 and a white that says at the beginning of your upkeep, return target spirit card from your graveyard to your hand. Oh my god. That could be bad. You don't care if they die. She's going to bring them all back.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
So Mirror of Entity, this one we had in other kind of support cards first, but this has the potential to be very powerful when you have 10/1/1 flyers out on the battlefield that may be buffed by other things. So Mirror Entity is 2 and a white for 1/1 changeling, so that means it's also a spirit. And you can pay X until the end of turn. Creatures you control have base power toughness of X and gain all creature types. Gaining all creature types is kind of irrelevant in this deck, but giving all of your spirits XX is pretty powerful.
Yeah. It could be. It could be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Windborn Muse for 3 and a white. It's a 2/3 flyer that says creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you.
Mm-hmm.
I've had this card
So annoying.
played against me so many times.
So annoying.
I
And
just want to attack with a whole
I
bunch of
just
stuff.
want to attack you. So gets rid of all those tribal people. Ghostly Prison is also the same thing. It's an enchantment, so it's harder to get rid of. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control attacking you. So if you had both of those on the battlefield, it would cost them 4 for each thing that they want to send at you. So you're going to be protected for a little bit.
Then we have Danelle, the Herald of Wings, a 3/3 human wizard for 2 and 2 blue that says whenever you cast a non legendary creature spell with flying, you may copy it, except the copy is a 1/1 spirit in addition to its other types. Do this only once each turn. So again, you're getting extra cards. Extra. You're going wide, folks.
So the next one we have is a partner card. So Rhoda, the Geist Avenger, he partners with Timon, the Youthful Geist. So Rhoda has vigilance, and when a creature your opponent controls becomes tapped, if it isn't being declared as an attacker, remember you're going to be able to tap things with all of your other stuff that you're card drawing with. You get to put a 1/1 counter on Rhoda, Geist Avenger. And when he comes out, you get to go search for Timon. And Timon, the Youthful Geist, is also quite synergistic with this for 4 and a blue. He's a 3/4. And he has flying. And at the beginning of each combat, you get to tap up to 1 target creature. So automatically, these two on the battlefield together, you're going to have something that taps every single combat, which then puts 1/1 counter on your other partner. And they go really well together.
Mm-hmm. Drogskull Reinforcements. It's a 2/2 Spirit Soldier for 3 and a white that says has melee, which means whenever this creature attacks, it gets +1 until end of turn for each opponent you attack this combat. Other spirits you control have melee. So prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to spirits you control. So they all get bigger the more people you attack, and they don't get any combat damage. So woohoo, free for all.
It's great. Well, they get combat damage and they don't get non-combat damage, so no burns.
Right. Sorry, non-combat damage.
Storm of Souls for 4 and 2 white is a sorcery that allows you to return all creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. However, they are 1/1 spirits with flying in addition to their other types. So they get their abilities, they get all of their other types, but they are 1/1s instead of whatever base power and toughness they were before. But that's okay because you have lots of enter the battlefield effects that happen with your cards. And so you get to take advantage of bringing those back as well. So
fun.
Yeah.
Breath of the Sleepless for 3 and a blue. It's an enchantment that says you may cast spirit spells as though they had flash. So there's another way to take advantage of that. And whenever you cast a creature spell during an opponent's turn, you tap up to one target creature. Cool. So playing it all and tapping them all down and doing all the tappy stuff. Tap, tap, tappy.
Ethereal Investigator. Look at this guy. He's got the best top hat, that nice little long trench coat. He is awesome. For 3 and a blue, he's a 2/3 flyer. And when he enters the battlefield, you get to investigate X times, where X is the number of opponents you have. So hopefully you'll get him out earlier than later. And when you draw your second card each turn, you get to create a 1/1 spirit token with flying. And you had a bunch of card draw in this deck, more than typical. So we're golden here.
Yeah, drawing lots of cards. Haunting Imitation for 2 and a blue. It's a sorcery that says each player reveals the top card of their library for each creature card revealed this way. You get to create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 1/1. It's a spirit in addition to its other types, and it has flying. If no creature cards were revealed this way, return Haunting Imitation to its owner's hand. So it didn't work. That's okay. Do it again.
Do it again. Oh, it's
And
awesome.
yeah, you're going to make lots of spirits from their stuff. They're good stuff, hopefully.
I love it. I love that you're guaranteed not to whiff. Like sometimes I'll play Collected Company or something like that, and it's like no cards. It feels so bad. But this one's like, that's okay. You can try again. Spectral Arcanist for 3 and a blue is a 3/2 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, again, enters the battlefield effect, you may cast an instant or sorcery with mana value less than or equal to the number of spirits you control from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If the spell would be put into the graveyard, exile it instead. So you get an instant or sorcery for free when you play this guy, and there's nothing wrong with free spells. Lots and lots of high impact cards in this deck.
Yeah.
It's just whew.
Then we get to the other cards on theme, other supporting type stuff. The formula says about 10, and this deck has about 10, so right on par as well. There's this funny little enchantment for 2 and a white, Promise of Bunray or Bunree. When a creature you control dies, you sacrifice the Promise of Bunray. If you do, create 4 colorless spirit creature tokens. More spirits.
More spirits. Benevolent Offering for 3 and a white. You get to choose an opponent. You and that player each create 3 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying. So you're making some friends. And then you get to choose an opponent, and you gain 2 life for each creature you control. And that player gains 2 life for each creature they control. Again, making friends.
Helpful, aren't you? Helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Spectral Shepherd for 2 and a white is a 2/2 flyer that has you can pay 1 and a blue and return target spirit you control to its owner's hand. So it's a little bit of a rescue thing going on there.
Mm-hmm. And Supreme Phantom for 1 and a blue is a 1/3 flyer. Other spirits you control get +1/+1. Nice. Great support.
It's another card I've been wanting to have. Okay, so Karmic Guide. It is a 2/2 flying protection from black for 3 and a 2 white. It has Echo for 3 and 2 white as well. That says at the beginning of your upkeep, if this came under your control since the beginning of your last upkeep, sacrifice it unless you pay its Echo cost. When it enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So you can do that twice, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess that penalty is there because you can flicker and remove things or exile them from the battlefield and bring them back. So it's kind of like, you know what? You brought this back. You got the second benefit. You got to pay the Echo cost.
Yeah.
Custody Soulbinder for 3 and a white is a 0/0. But when it enters the battlefield, it enters with X/1/1 counters on it, where X is the number of other creatures on the battlefield, not just that you control. So playing against those vampires, you get 1/1 for theirs too. You can pay 2 and a white and remove 1 counter from this guy and create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. So he's going to come in with a ton of counters, and you can just keep taking the counters off and making spirits.
Wow. Hallowed Spirit Keeper, an avatar who keeps track of all the spirits, apparently. For 1 and 2 white, it's a 3/2 with vigilance, and when it dies, you create X/1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard.
Yep.
So that time that correctly, you get lots of that stuff.
Mhm. And like any good library, it's haunted. So Haunted Library is a 1 and a white enchantment that whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you can pay 1. If you do, you get to create a spirit. So basically, their dude dies, and you're like, hey, come join my library. I'm going to pay 1, and then you get a spirit because that creature turns into a spirit.
That's crazy. Priest of Blessed Graph for 2 and a white. It's a 1/2 human cleric. At the beginning of your end step, create X1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying, where X is the number of opponents who control more lands than you.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
Sun Salvation is the last one in our deck, and it is for 2 and 2 white, and it's an instant. You choose up to 3 target permanents cards in a graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn, so that's important, and return them to the battlefield tapped under their owner's control. You draw cards for each opponent who controls one or more of those permanents. So a good way to, again, make some friends, bring something back to their graveyard, get some card draw, or you can return your own creatures. You don't get any added benefit because you're the one that got the creature. So someone board wipes on you, you're going to bring some stuff back, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Then as far as the land goes for this deck, the formula calls for 34, and this deck has 35, so a little less than other decks we've seen. Right along par, though, and it's a low mana curve, so it shouldn't be too much of a big deal. There are 12 plains, 11 islands, and 12 non-basics. So look there if you want to upgrade at all. There's lots of good lands you could put in here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's actually pretty close to what we normally put in, so that's kind of great.
Yeah.
So our last section is tweaks, the moment you've all been waiting for, I am sure. These are just a few things that we found that might be good in this deck. We would love to hear from you if you had any suggestions or anything that we missed, or just ones that are those hidden gems that you have found that you could add to this deck. These are just some, not all, the things you could do. Yeah. The first thing we noticed in this deck, of course, is that it doesn't have a lot of ramp. The ramp is very low. They've sacrificed the ramp in this deck for the theme of spirits, which does really well sometimes. So it's got a low mana curve, so you might be okay with that, but you could add some mana ramp. But the main thing that we were thinking is, because you have all these flyers, there's a lot of things that will buff flyers in particular. So Thunderclap Wyvern, Empyrean Eagle, Favorable Wind, Skycat Sovereign, those are all just some good cards that are in your colors that will buff flyers and make them bigger. So you might as well take advantage of those spirits in the sky and make them bigger. So
and then again, because it's such a low mana curve, a card like Clarion Spirit that is a spirit itself, and whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you got lots of card draw, you got lots of cards happening. They're cheap. You're going to be able to create a 1/1 spirit creature token with flying every turn, pretty much, if you have this card out, because you're going to be able to play multiple things at a time.
And you have lots of card draw as well, so you're going to have a full hand and be able to have those too. So Drogskull Cavalry is a Spirit Knight flyer, 4/4. He's pretty expensive at 7, but whenever another spirit enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 2 life, which is going to keep you in the game a little bit longer if you need to. And you can also pay 4 and put a 1/1 spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. It's going to gain you spirits, get you 2 life because of it. So when you don't have anything else to do with that mana, you might as well put it into this, so that you might want to add this guy to your deck.
Yeah. Then we've got the Whispering Wizard, which is from the new set, for 3 and a blue. It's a 3/2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying, and this ability triggers only once each turn. Again, you've got lots of instances and sorceries doing stuff for you, so you may as well make spirits at the same time. Woohoo!
Yeah. And no deck is good without a dragon in it. So Eternal Dragon for 5 and 2 white is a little 5/5 spirit dragon with flying. So he Takes advantage of all of the buffs that spirits get. And you can also pay 3 and 2 white to return him from your graveyard to your hand.
Jeez.
Activate only during your upkeep. So he is a dragon that never dies.
He never
He
died.
also has plane cycling, so you can use him for some card draw because it doesn't matter if he's in the graveyard because you can return him from the graveyard to your hand.
Just keep doing that over and over again until you're ready for him.
If you need to, yeah.
Yeah. Then we have this cool new flip card called Catilda Dawnheart Martyr. She is a spirit warlock that says she has flying, lifelink, and protection from my vampires. Her power and toughness are each equal to the number of permanents you control that are spirits and or enchantments. That could be big. And she has disturb 3 and 2 white. So that means once she dies, she goes to the graveyard, and then you can pay her disturbed cost and play the other side, which in this case is Catilda's Rising Dawn, which is an enchantment aura that you enchant a creature. And so then that enchanted creature has flying, lifelink, and protection from vampires and gets +X, where X is the number of permanents you control, their spirits and or enchantments. And then once that aura is gone, it gets exiled, but comes back and does some more work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Another one that is a flip card that we thought might be really good for this deck. There's some really good spirits. Faithbound Judge. It comes in as a 4/4 for 3, which is already really good. It's a defender, so it can't attack, but it does have flying and vigilance. However, at the beginning of your upkeep, if this guy has 2 or fewer judge counters on it, then you can put a judgment counter on it. As long as it has 3 judgment counters on it, it can attack as though it didn't have defender. And then it has disturb, which correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, it can be cast from the graveyard. So you cast it from the graveyard for 5 and 2 white, and then it's an enchantment, much like Catilda's Judgment. This is Sinner's Judgment. You enchant a player, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you put a judgment counter on Sinner's Judgment. Then, if there are 3 or more judgment counters on it, enchanted player loses the game. Once it's gone, it's gone. So it puts a clock on that person that is just being really, really annoying and hard to kill. And I really like this card. And if you pull it, it is mythic, so it's going to be hard to find. But if you pull it, it's great for this deck.
Totally. Then we've got the Cemetery Illuminator. It is a 2/3 for 1 and 2 blue new spirit that just came out that has, whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile a card from a graveyard. You may look at the top of your library anytime, and then once each turn, you may cast a spell from the top of your library if it shares a card type with a card exiled with Cemetery Illuminator. So maybe a way to play extra spirits off of your deck. It's hard to say. It's something to try for sure.
Yeah. And then Dorothy, Vengeance, Dorothea. Vengeful Victim is a 4/4 for 2, which is already kind of crazy. She's flying, and when she attacks or blocks, you have to sacrifice it, which is why it's kind of crazy. 4/4 for 2, you can attack with it. But she also has disturb, and you can cast her from your graveyard. So you're okay if she dies. And when it comes back, it again is an enchantment aura. You get to enchant a creature that whenever this creature attacks, you get to create a 4/4 white spirit creature token with flying that's tapped and attacking. So yeah, you're just going to put it on something that you can create 4/4 spirits that are also tapped and attacking. Again, when it dies, it just goes away. So
pretty fun.
Yeah.
So that's it for our tweaks. We were also thinking that you might want to put, if you have it, some token doubling type things like Anointed Procession. I know it's a really expensive card, but that'll make you even more tokens. You might want to do a little bit more ramp in there. We didn't talk about that too much, but play it first and see, because it might just be fine because it's such a low mana curve and you've got so much card draw. So just play it and try it out and see if you need to worry about ramping up at all. And then again, you can also have, because it's a tribal deck, you can get in the tribal buffs like the Vanquisher's Banner, Adaptive Automaton, Door of Destinies, Icon of Ancestry, and Herald Torn. Those sorts of cards, if you have them, they'd be a good fit in here too for that tribal buffing as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is it for this time. Thank you so much for watching. You can see us on YouTube and Twitch. Also, feel free to please connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We'd love to hear how you would tweak this deck. That's it for this time. And until next time,
Tap those magic cards and have fun doing it. Thank
bye,
you.
guys.